Yes. Okay. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to It's Levels to This with me, Sharon Washington, where I talk to all of my amazing friends and professionals about how to position yourself. How are we elevating, right? Today, I have a special friend, a very, very, very special friend that I'm talking with today about elevating over 50. Like, I'm turning 50. I won't tell his age because it's impolite. I'll let him tell his age, but he's over 50. And so we're just going to talk about what that looks like to position yourself at 50. So welcome, Mark Silverman. Welcome. Hello.
Sure, this is fun to do on camera.
Yeah, we don't get to talk very much. So, because you're busy, I see all of the amazing things you're doing, and I tell you, I admire you from afar. I should be more up close. Maybe I need to do more commenting, but I see that you're out there. And from when we first met, I see that there are some changes. I would call it elevating, but it just may be your natural movement. But you're out there looking amazing. So I'm going to start with this first question, if you can. Describe what you consider to be elevation in a phrase and
In
why.
in a single
In
phrase.
a phrase, yes.
Yes. Okay. Let's because succinctness is not my for
That's okay. That's all right. If you
right.
if you have to do two phrases or three
So
phrases,
I think elevation is expanding your range,
okay.
is being able to do things that you weren't able to do before, being able to be some kind of a person that you weren't able before. So if you were quiet, being able to be more outgoing. If you didn't set boundaries, being able to set boundaries. If you were caustic, being able to be more kind and pause, right? To if you wanted to change careers, but you thought you needed certain characteristics or attributes. I think that's elevation, being able to become the person you want to be able to do what it is you want to do.
I like it. Does it have to be a single lane? You think it's kind of this one? I find that as I get older, I want to be a chef, a choreographer, a health influencer,
I paint,
like
I
everything.
paint, I bake bread,
Yes.
I meditate, I coach, I travel, I scuba dive. Like I'm ADD, I'm ADHD, so I do a lot of things. No, it's in every area. But again, I have a mission, I have something I'm trying to accomplish, and it's asking of me to be a new person. And things that Mark of 10 years ago, Mark of 5 years ago, maybe even Mark of 2 years ago, probably wouldn't have even been able to attempt.
Awesome. So, okay. So listen to this. How have you elevated? How you see yourself a year ago, 12 months ago, today? How do you think you elevated?
Wow. So
How have you expanded?
I'm more than elevated in the last year.
Nice.
So
Oh,
I turned 60 this last year, and
you're handsome, by the way. No one would know that you're 60. Okay. So,
thank you so much.
ladies, don't check them out. Don't check them out.
So when I turned 50,
Yes.
I switched careers. Right, I was a sales guy. I was in high tech industry. I was a guy carrying a briefcase. I became an executive coach when I was 50.
Okay.
Right, and
Okay.
at 50, I asked God what it is, what is next for me, what should I be doing, what do I want to spend the next half of my life. When I was about to turn 60, I made the decision to leave behind so many of the things that held me back in my 50s, so many of the things I just carried so long. So I did some ceremonies and really dug deep and did deep inner work
Nice.
to become something different in my 60s. And I
Mhm.
wasn't sure what that was. What I did not know what it was. I thought it was going to be spiritual or
Yes.
connection or God. It was, you're going to make millions of dollars in your 60s. It's, you're going to double your business. You're going to do all this stuff. I got a lion tattoo. And like I
Yes.
60 has been the best year ever.
Oh
So and
man.
the explosion of new Mark, and I didn't, I've been so many different people over my life. The explosion of this new Mark is shocking to me, and I'm enjoying every minute of it.
I like the idea of growth, like new person, new decade. I think about myself at 40, and I'm certainly, actually, I think of myself at 48. and things that I have coming up. I'm expanding, I'm building a nonprofit. Like it never occurred to me. I mean, I said, when I retire, and that's funny too, that I'm in this age of thinking even about retire me. I mean, I'm forever 25. That's in my mind. But thinking about retirement and what do I want to do and how do I want to impact the world. And I know that people talk about building this legacy, building a legacy for people. I hear it, I thought about it, but now I'm really kind of thinking, what kind of impact do I want to leave, not just for my children, because my children are 29 and 30. My grandma, I have 4-year-old, but for other people's children too, right? Being a professor, I I have a lot of young women that I influence. So being impactful. So it's good to hear that you can continue to grow, that elevation doesn't stop. You don't go to a point and then you don't move. Okay. So who's the one person, whether you're following
The
or
one
you're
person.
well, if you, I know you might want to say many. I'm going to give you a break. I love it. Say 2 or 3 if you like, but a couple of people who you follow or you're connected with that you admire their elevation and why.
Okay. There's this young guy on Twitter named Tej Doza.
Okay.
Tej TJ Dosa.
Okay.
He's tweets at comedic businessman. That's his Twitter handle, and he's this young entrepreneur kind of guy, copywriter kind of guy. But I started following him, and he was writing some of the most deeply spiritual
Mm-hmm.
and practical stuff I've ever seen anywhere from people 3 times his age.
Okay.
And he's in his 20s, and he was writing raw about his growth and his change and where he came from and who he is now. And he talks about spirituality and God, and the reality of our situation in life as if he was 105-year-old yogi on a mountain.
I have
And
to follow
I have
him.
been following him, and I've gotten to know him, and I've had him on my podcast because of all the people who are spouting a lot of this stuff. I'm just, and what I love about it is he's guileless about it.
Oh
Like,
wow.
I know I teach a lot of what he teaches. I know it. I've had experiences of it, but I have so much baggage and, belief systems and stuff that come along with it that I can't just jump in hook, line, and sinker like he can at his age. And it's really breathtaking to watch.
Oh, I have to follow him. I have to follow him. I'm always excited to see young people elevate. I think that's why I teach. I really like to see when they grow and they're building and they want to build. I feel like in this time period, young people, the Gen Zers, not just the millennials are now old. They're old people now. I can't even, they're close to 40. I can't even call them young people, but the Gen Zers, man, they kind of really move forward when they want something, right? They either put their full effort into it and then they grow. And it's incredible to see. Like, when I see my students kind of blossoming into their own, I go, yeah, and yes, but it's in things I would never think about at 20. At 20, I certainly wasn't thinking about saving the world. I have to be very forward with that, or recycling, or or saving, or anything like that. I thought I'm just gonna have a good time. So it's good to see. So that leads me to this question. All right. What do you think is more challenging? Leveling up when you're young, 20s, or leveling up now?
I don't think either one is more difficult.
Okay.
I think it depends on where you are. So like in your 20s and 30s and the drives and motivations, that are driving you, some of those are pathologies, some of those are things from childhood, some of them are unhealthy and from a wrong place. And you can't really level up because you're just busy trying to fulfill that thing that's been driving you. And then kind of middle age gives you that midlife crisis of, was I climbing the wrong ladder? What did I want to be, this kind of person? I did
Yeah.
all this and didn't even, like, it was unconscious all this time, right? But you have the energy, you have the drive, like, so you have the ability to level up, and a lot of it is just constantly leveling up, getting into college or getting into a trade, then growing in your business. So it's a level up by default,
Uh-huh.
maybe not by intention. What I tell people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s is now it's deliberate. Everything is deliberate. Nothing happens automatically anymore. If you want friends, you actually have to, like you have to go and call people and talk to people and stay in, like you and I love each other.
Yes.
We have to actually make effort to do that. If we want to stay in shape, before 40, your body
Ah,
takes care of you. After 40, you take care of your body. At
right.
60, you just kind of duct tape it together and keep it moving, right? Like, so it
No,
takes,
you didn't duct tape. You look amazing. Kudos to you. I've gained 11 pounds. I have to go back on my regimen. Okay. I'm almost jealous. You're
it's
looking good.
it's a constant battle of up and down.
Yeah.
But what I do think is when you have that midlife kind of either crisis or awakening, or when you hear that little voice say something needs to be different,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now it's oh my God, the hourglass is slipping away. What do I want to do with what I have left? And there's
Right.
an urgency to it. And then when your kids leave, that kind, when they're out of the house, now you're left with yourself, who you've become, maybe a spouse you are glad you grew with, or maybe you grew apart. Like, now what do I want to create? So I think they both have their advantages and disadvantages. 'Cause I think your next question is I'm going to talk about the disadvantage.
Yes, yes. So before I go into that, I will mention that the blonde hair is part of my midlife elevation, is what I like to call it. But my husband said midlife crisis. He's like, what are you doing? Like trying different things.
Tell your husband I'm a fan.
Thank you. I'm a fan. He's a fan now. He's a fan. He wasn't a fan of the red as I was trying to kind of figure
Yeah,
out what was.
the
I didn't like the
red doesn't
red. I
do
didn't like the red
doesn't.
either. But I really like this blonde, and the blonde is so I can transition into gray. But I really, really enjoy the blonde. And at first, because of he felt that it was a drastic change, I'm usually conservative outwardly, definitely not conservative if you're in my inner circle, but outwardly my look was more subdued, and now
You're gonna be 50. Enough of that.
I don't even care. I don't care
I
anymore.
know
Like
some of your friends.
you do.
You need a little bling like some of
I
your
do. I
friends.
do. Right. Katie was like changing purple, it's Katie. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know. So this is good. I'm sticking with it, and I feel grand about it now. So I can understand that. I can understand that. Okay. So what do you think is most challenging? Did I ask you what you think is most challenging leveling up a youth and now? Okay. Is 50 plus the new 30 plus?
No,
Okay.
because in your 30s you still have your kids. You still have all that stuff. You still have the drives and motivations that are driving you from childhood. You have all that stuff. So it's not. But I never thought I'd still be hot at 60, right? Like, I never thought that I would have the energy. I never thought that I would create an entirely new program and travel the world and speak on stages and do all this stuff at 60. Like, so 60 is the new 30 because I feel great. I look great. I never knew that this is what 60 would be like and
Well, I
could be like.
agree. You look amazing. I
So
want to be your type of 60. So I want to be able to
I
say,
was
at
saying
this
it tongue in
age,
cheek. In other words, like
sure.
I still feel like a vibrant, viable human. Where when I remember 60 way back when, it was like now it was time to be sitting and watching, your sitcoms at night and be winding things down, and I'm
Yeah.
cranking things up.
Yeah. Oh, and it's amazing to see. Like I said, I can feel the energy. So it doesn't, when you posted you were turning 60, I was like, really? Mark is that old? I can't even imagine because I think of 60. You can't imagine what my students think is old. So they're like, yeah, when you're an old person at 35, and I thought, 35? You're old at is 35 the new elderly? Is that what's happening? But my students seem to think so. But when I see you, and I think about myself being a grandma, Mimi, and she's 4, I'm, you know, I'm not a grandma. I'm not what my grandmother used to be. At least I didn't. She was young. She was vibrant, but she was certainly grandma vibes. She was gray, she was older, she
You're
still
like
was.
the youngest grandmother in the world, though. So,
No,
give your grandmother a break because you are young.
I have a young grandma, right? These kids are old. They're 29 and 30. They're old people. I can't, I'm
My
so
my
glad.
my my kids are younger than your kids.
Really?
My kids are
Yeah.
23 and 26.
I was young when I had, and I'm actually happy that that happened. Lessons. If I thought about myself in my 20s, there were lessons. It is good to have them mature enough to move in their spaces, but still, I was young enough to enjoy kind of the playfulness with them. I still try to get them to do TikTok. I feel like I'm younger than them.
I was homeless in my 20s, so I wasn't going to be taking care of anybody else.
Oh, well, that's a good story. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was homeless, a drug addict, alcoholic, and I came into town. I was living in my truck. I was 135 pounds, and it was not good. So all this again, a level up several
Right,
times.
right, and you can do that, right? That's the permission to be able to reinvent yourself as you will, as you see fit. Is that right? Would you say that?
That's what I would say. It takes a lot of work because the gravitational pull to be your old self is pretty strong. So you got to pull yourself through that gravitational pull.
Absolutely. Okay. So, what's your favorite season, fall or spring?
Spring,
Why?
flowering trees.
Do
Freaking
you
flower trees, man.
flower trees?
Like if you're like having trouble being alive, and then you walk by some flowering trees, like what a freaking miracle.
I love it. I happen fall is my favorite because I love a sweater. I like the brisk air and it reminds me it must be something about us, right? I do like scenery. I like the green. I still like the colors, orange, brown. I like that it's warm enough where you could be outside, but cool enough where you need a jacket. I think that that's great. Which time of the season do you think it's better to start your leveling up? Probably nowhere. I know that you figure whenever you want to, but fall or spring, if you had to choose.
Spring, I think spring is definitely, like if we allowed ourselves, we would follow more closely the rhythms of earth, the rhythms of the season, the rhythms of the moon and all that stuff if we actually slowed down enough to feel those things. So I think that you have a natural trajectory, a natural lift in the spring.
Nice. Okay. Last question. Give us one or two tips or my audience, one or two tips on how to elevate. What's some good elevation tips?
If we're going to stick with the how to elevate in your 50s and
Yes.
kind of in midlife, it's energy. You need, if you're tired, it's really hard to elevate. If
Mhm.
if you're in pain, if you don't feel good, it's really hard to elevate because you're just, chronic pain is so debilitating, but to the mind, to the psyche and the mind and, to the body. So do what, like I have all kinds of aches and pains and stuff. So I have a trainer. I stretch religiously. Like I watch what I eat because I can't be spending time dealing with how I'm feeling if I'm trying to do things, right? And I still like I crawl down the stairs in the morning. Like if you looked at me coming down the stairs, you would say I was 78 years old, maybe 90, right? And then after I warm up a little bit, you'd be like, okay, we're okay. But really, you've got to get your food and your exercise and your contemplation and quiet time under some sort of control because you've got to have energy to elevate it, because again, elevating at 50 and 60 is at choice,
Yes.
right? It's not your job telling you to elevate and all that stuff. It's you. So you have to find that energy. It's funny because I had someone on my podcast once who was talking about being an entrepreneur in midlife for men.
Yes.
And he says, I've never seen an male entrepreneur in his 50s uh, who didn't need testosterone therapy, hormone therapy,
Okay.
right? Like to have that drive, to have that verve. It's not even about the sex drive and all that stuff.
Right.
It's
Right.
about that drive and that focus to get a business off the ground, right? And that opened my eyes to what do I need in order to be able to continue to thrive and elevate and in my 60s, and it's energy.
Well, thank you, because you passed that. It's synergy here too, because I can feel it. I feel it when I watch you. Anytime I interact and engage with you, whether that's in person or online or on the phone, it's great. The best thing that I got, you guys, that you but you don't get this from your friends, is a video email to just catch up on how I'm doing. Man, I really felt that. Like, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I was like, oh my God. I have to get in touch with Mark more often. It made me feel like I wasn't doing my job. At the same time, I felt amazing because
You
you
have
did
my
it.
cell phone,
I know, I
right? Like
know.
it works.
I know. I'm trying to get my life together. Look, I'm having a podcast that I've been talking about for
This is
5 years.
amazing.
So I just did it. I just did it. And you're right about energy. So you have to have energy. And I actually, if I sit in the car for 10 minutes and have to get out, I'm actually a little bit in pain back. And I work
Right?
out 4 or 5 times a week. So I know what you're talking about. Okay. Tell the people how to get in touch with you, who you are, what you got going on, because you have a podcast
So
too. Please share
everything
that.
is at markjsilverman.com. Mark the letter J Silverman.com. Yeah, so you can find out about my podcast, The Rising Leader, my new book, The Rising Leader, uh, and The Rising Leader Handbook, and my new program. I have a new the first time I'm doing a public cohort of the Rising Leader. I'm teaching executives and kind of fast rising high achievers how to
Yeah.
become effective leaders. So leading up, leading across, leading your team, and then leading yourself in all those 4 quadrants. So that's what I'm doing now. The first cohort, the first public cohort is going to be May 17th. So that's exciting.
That is
And
exciting. Is that here? Is
everything's
that in person or is it virtual?
it's gonna be virtual because I have people from all over the world. All my
Yeah.
clients are all over the world. I have no clients locally. I have countries all around the world. So it's much easier for people to do. It's a 14-week course. So if we do it over Zoom, it's going to be much easier.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate this. It's happy to see. Look, you guys, you can be vibrant over 50, over 60, over 70.
My
And
next door neighbor's 72, and she's still just a pistol and looks amazing. She's my spirit animal. I'm like,
oh,
I'm
I
living next to
love
you for the
it.
rest of my life.
Please, please. And I have to soak up some of this good energy. So thank you for being on here. Okay, you guys, make sure you tune in every Wednesday. There's a new episode about with one of my friends of how we elevate, how we position ourselves. Please share, like on YouTube, or follow me on Instagram at Sharon Washington. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.